I am really, really honored to have my guest back today. Dr. Noelle Santorelli has been on, I think you were on about a year and a half ago, and you are a clinical psychologist. You also are an adjunct faculty member of Emory University. You deal a lot with mean moms. You're all over social media, TikTok, Instagram, talking about this bully culture of moms and relational aggression and all the things that are in the news right now. So welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
I didn't F up the intro too
You messed
badly,
up
did I?
nothing in the intro.
I didn't? Oh my
Nothing.
God. I
Nothing.
mean,
It was perfect.
oh my God.
Check.
Chuck. Okay. So I adore you. Obviously, we started talking over a year and a half ago. I think
Yeah.
I found you on Instagram and I said, please come on.
Yep.
I have talked about why I started this podcast in 2020 because I was going through this horrific friend breakup. I was kind of dealing with just everything all at once, all of my trauma from my childhood coming to a boiling point. My listeners know this. And I have never, ever in my entire life dealt with something so painful in my life as what I dealt with in this friend breakup. And sadly, I'm still dealing with it. I'm going to tell you that. Yeah,
Oh,
all
I
these
didn't know
years
that.
later.
Okay.
Yeah, all these years later. I mean, I don't really, and I shouldn't say that, but I still have to see these women. I mean, it's like more like just when I see them, and I'm sure if you're a listener or maybe you can relate to this or some of your patients, it's pain. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
this really hard thing where I feel resentment because I let these women into my life. I cared about them. I considered them like my close friends. And so when I see the ones that I actually did care about in the friend group, then they say hi to me, I'm a bitch. I'm like, I literally want to be like, go fuck yourself and excuse my language. But
Right.
that's kind of a long-winded story. And listeners, if you want to go back and listen to what actually happened, because I don't really talk about this anymore because I really don't want to give them a platform to think that they're getting away with their behavior. But I think it's so important to talk about it with what's on the news right now.
When I first started talking on Instagram about adult bullying or specifically adult bullying within mom circles, there was not a lot of information out there. No one was really talking about this. There is talk about adult bullying in workplaces, even within families, right? Some of the behavior that goes on within families, we could consider it a form of bullying or covert bullying. Um,
Mhm.
but no one was really talking about the experience that mothers specifically were having with adult bullying because it adds a whole nother layer when you've got children that might be involved in the mix. Now, the Ashley Tisdale, Hilary Duff, the article in the Cut, Leaving My Toxic Mom group. I don't know how old their kids are. I don't know much about them. I don't know if their kids were a part of why the group formed or why the group was maintained. But for a lot of mothers, staying in a quote unquote toxic mom group does have a lot to do with the family or the mother's belief that staying might have benefits for the child or leaving might have severe consequences or negative consequences for the child
Mhm.
involved. And so I think, and a lot of people will say, well, isn't it just, aren't mean girls just mean girls? It doesn't matter if you're a mom or not. But I think the importance of adding that mom layer or the motherhood variable is because some of our decisions get tainted or skewed because of the child factor and how they are involved in the dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing that I'll say about the article and everything that came out. I saw the article come out. I think I reached out to you right away and I
Mhm,
go, oh, look at this.
mhm.
But and then the husband, Hilary Duff's husband came out and kind of gaslit the other side, which again, we don't know. I don't know the details. Okay. None of us do, but it's a group of women. Okay. And one person. And clearly whatever the side is, the group of women are going to band together. I've had this happen to me, so I personally know,
Sure.
and I think you've had stuff happen. A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of women do. And she's like the one mom out. So of course, when the man pipes in and says whatever he was saying that she did, take that out of the equation. It's still a group of women.
Yes.
And she came out, it's clearly very painful for her, okay, to share her story. And I know how this feels. And then the public starts attacking her,
Yep.
going, well, what did you expect? And why this and why that? And believe me, I understand how this feels because I have a public platform podcast and am made fun of for sharing my story. And, but I know what happened. I know my truth. I know what they did to me. And I will never, till the day I die, ever forget what they did to me and how they made me feel. So my heart goes out to her. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, my heart goes out to her too, because while my experience definitely wasn't public or as public as a podcast or a celebrity, when something happens in a small community, and I think even if we're in big cities, our big cities can form small communities, it feels like you have the scarlet letter A on your back. Right? It feels like there's a mark on you, like you're it or you're the one, even if nothing happened that you know of. But just by means of speaking up and saying, I'm leaving this group or I'm no longer a part of this group, you feel very targeted. You feel like eyes are on you. I know that from my own smaller experience, but from a lot of the women I work with or that I've reached out online, there is such a level of shame that comes with being excommunicated or pushed out or excluded from a mom group. And I really do think part of it is because it also feels like a failure in motherhood. It feels like you've somehow potentially let your kids down or disappointed your kids. And that's the part where I think it adds a whole nother layer is, again, that kid component. You are feeling like some of your choices or behaviors directly impacted your children. And as parents, we work really hard to protect our kids or make sure our kids have, the things that they need or as nice of a life as possible. And this ends up triggering a lot of mom shame or mom guilt. I've been obviously very public about this, but I've been very disappointed in the public's response to the Ashley Tisdale toxic mom group drama. At first it sounded like most people, and maybe that's just because of the people that happen to follow me or send me things like this, they were saying, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Look at this. I'm so glad. She really named it well. I can't believe someone big is talking about this. So there was a lot of excitement initially. And then once it started getting into like mainstream news outlets, there's been a lot of what I consider victim blaming. And just having been through a very small part of feeling like I was part of a toxic mom group, I can only imagine what that feels like for women that are still in it, that are hearing these other women say, and literally, I quote, "Do you ever think what's wrong with you?" That was one that I recently did I sort of did a stitch on where I explained why there's more going on than just an individual deficit when someone is excommunicated from a group or exiled from a group. We can't automatically assume it's just that individual person's fault. But that's what we end up feeling.
Yeah, I love that you said, I think we talked about this when you first came on. It is like in my case, I'll talk about mine, that it is like having a scarlet letter on you. Years later, I was friendly with somebody, like friendly in passing, like, hey, how are you? And now that person's part of their little friend group, saw her going into the grocery store and was just kind of looked at me like, didn't want to say hi because, and this is like 7 years later. I mean, it's absurd.
Right.
And I realized in my head, and I'm very fortunate because I started over. I have good, close friends. I keep it very small. because I don't ever want to find myself in that toxic mom cycle group again. I'm also too old. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but the what you said about the Scarlet letter, in my case, it was like that. The thing that breaks my heart too is when somebody, because she knew in her head she was going to get backlash, I'm sure, when she shared her story. I mean, she's very public. She's not a dumb girl.
Sure.
And you know, immediately it's like everybody banned in the beginning, like, oh, here you are. And then they all kind of, people are attacking her.
Yep.
So I was thinking in my head, if that was me at my time, at my worst time in 2020, where I openly told one of the friends in the group, like, basically, I'm throwing in the towel. I don't want to be here anymore, because I was already dealing with like trauma, other stuff. And then that on top of it, I was ready to be done. And I think about psychologically what it must be like, because no matter what happened, that's her truth. And she came forward and she told her truth, and she's clearly in pain. And then on top of that, she's being ambushed by the dad, the husband of one of the people. And then, people are making reels and making fun of her. It's the whole cycle of you're continuing the bully cycle. Yeah. But now she's almost made it worse for herself, because now people are like, oh, these are my favorites. Yeah. She's too sensitive.
Right. She's too sensitive. She acted.
What's the other one you said?
She's dramatic. She's too sensitive.
Too sensitive. Yeah.
She's overthinking things. She herself is acting like a teenager for not just moving on, for announcing her exit, for announcing that she was leaving the group. She should have just left. People are saying it is actually anti-girl, or it is anti-female to talk badly about a female group. And, I actually think the exact opposite is true. So I think that there's a lot of lip service about women supporting women. And I've always said this. I would like to believe I am truly someone who wants every woman possible to exceed, to reach their best possible limit that they want to reach. But I think there's a lot of people that use women supporting women, or that sort of party line, as I support the women that I believe are doing the right thing. Not all women. So I support women that are following the rules and the guidelines that I believe women should follow. That's very different than really saying I support all women. And so by actually suggesting that one woman might, that the problem is solely her, that, I've heard people say, if 10 women don't like you, then obviously it's you and not the other 10 women. Have you thought what's wrong with you? That is actually more anti-female. That's patriarchy with a cardigan on. Because the patriarchy wants women to be quiet when they've been harmed, and to go with the flow, and to go along to get along. When a woman stands up and says, I'm anti-establishment, or I'm anti what most people think is the right way for women to be, which is to be in a mom group, a big, happy sorority type mom group, that goes against cultural norms, and people don't like that. That's actually that's more anti-female, in my opinion.
I mean, I agree. And in my case, I willingly left my situation, because there was I'll really quickly recap.
Yeah.
Talking about this, but I'm just going to recap.
I'm sure you do, but
very shortly, because honestly, it's triggering. It's like, these are the feelings I feel. It's triggering. It's embarrassing a little bit.
Shame.
I'm sure there's the shame of it. It's also I feel kind of oh, I'm a loser. All my friends left me, and what's wrong with me? Which is the goes along with the shame. But then
and then you have women saying things like, well, what's wrong with you? And that's right. And that's what I dislike about people saying this. We don't know Ashley. We don't know Hilary. None of us care. But what I care about is one woman said, this is how I was hurt, and this is how I was hurt relationally. For women to come out and say, what's wrong with you? It is so detrimental to women's growth and progress.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
your
I mean,
story
we
is
are.
fascinating because it's real relational aggression. It's betrayal trauma, it's relational aggression, um, which is why I think your story is so compelling and yet so painful to have to relive.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell it like the 2-second version. I'm writing a book as well, so there's a portion of my book that has talks about this. I don't like shining light on this, and part of why I talk about it is just like you. I want to help other women not feel like they're so alone because I'm going to tell you something. I say this all the time. I lost my sister at 2. I lost my dad at 13. I lost my best friend at 29. I have never dealt with as much pain as I did with the way that I was made to feel in this friend breakup with all of the stuff that I've gone through in my life
Yeah.
ever. So really quickly, I'm going to tell the listeners because I know you know the story. About probably in 2019, I was really close to this one woman, and she just weird things had started happening. She was not including me in things. And there was another mom I was in like kind of a friend group where we would all go to dinner, but everyone would talk about each other at the dinner and make fun of other, like one person would get up, and I was guilty of it too because I wanted to fit in and be in the cool mom group. And we had the parties and had the kids at the beach every weekend and did all this stuff. And then basically, the one friend that I thought was my closest friend started becoming really close to this other friend. And and a bunch of moms that I thought were my friends too planned this big trip, and they didn't include me. And so it was probably like a group of like 8 moms, 10, whatever it was. But then there were like outlayer moms. So this one friend, like in quotes, friend that was like a new friend that was brought into the group comes up to me and she goes, "Oh, did you find out about the trip?" And it was at a kids event. And I go, "What trip?" And I remember reaching out to the one mom that in quotes, that was my closest friend. And I knew she wasn't because she had done so many shady things at that point, but I couldn't break the cycle of being friends with her. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I could have done differently. So part of why I'm doing this and reliving it and re-talking about it is because I want listeners, if you're going through something like this, like, look for the red flags because there were a million. And if you want to private message me, I can tell you. Um, okay. So basically, that was the final straw for me. There was a lot of other stuff. And I texted her and I said, "Is this true?" And she said, "Oh, well, so and so, you don't like so and so. So that's why we didn't include you." But like, no, sorry, no, nothing. Just like basically, she knew. Okay. And then it just turned into the one mom that ran up, like, looked like she swallowed a canary. She was so happy to see me crumble and be hurt. To this day, like, I think she's one of the worst ones. And then I held it in for like 6 months. And at first, some of the friends were on my side. And then slowly they started to see me deteriorate because I would just be like drooling in a corner. I would talk about it all the time, how much pain it was, how I wasn't like in that cool group anymore. And all the outside people were like, "What did she do? What this, that?" And getting involved and taking sides. And so I went to this one ornament exchange, and this one mom came up to me and kind of like messed with me and grabbed me from the back. And I'm really weird about people coming up. I was also drunk. And she said, "Hi, Meghan. Hi, Meghan." And I snapped and I turned around because I saw the one mom that had like replaced me in the friend group. And I said, and I go like basically, "Get the F away from me, you effing loser." Those, I use the actual
Direct words.
Yeah,
Or,
the
yeah.
direct words. And then the next thing you know, this one mom that was like waiting to bring me down to go to them because was never included in the group, but all of a sudden they were including her to try and get intel against me. And there's so many effed up things that this one mom did. I can't even, I mean, this is all true.
Sure.
And then after that, they never spoke to me again. Like my friend group, another girl was like my closest friend at the time. I tried to talk to her. She just like completely dropped me. We were so close. I went to her house one day. I looked on like a board. All of the pictures of us had been taken down. It was like and then it was COVID, and then I couldn't go anywhere. So I had like in my town, which is small, I had zero friends,
So
zero.
isolating.
I was so isolated. I would like walk into Target and people would see me and turn the other way.
Did anyone
So
ever ask you, like, did any of these women say, Meghan, what happened that night? Or
nope,
were you
nothing.
okay? What's going on? That's unlike
No,
you.
the one mom that I have names for all of them.
Yeah.
I'm not public with their names, but the
Right.
one name, I call them the Karens because it's really healthy and perfect for a mental health podcast name called, but it helps me. It's
Sure.
probably not the most mature. So I call this one mom the queen of all Karens. She like was like the one that started trashing me and telling people all over town, like people from other schools that I knew were like, I heard you were at a party and everyone in the class was there and you cussed this mom out and you went crazy. And meanwhile, it was like 3 moms were standing there when I did that.
Right.
They completely made it into this thing that it never should have been. And I saw the one mom that wanted to see, that has been so horrible to me. There's other things that have happened over the years. And I saw her and she was smirking. She was happy that I snapped because it was like she was waiting. They were all
Right.
waiting for it.
Right. So enough pressure had built up, right? You'd felt enough of the covert,
Yeah.
underhanded.
Plus I was wasted. Plus I was like, I'd gained like over this time. And then I was like in seclusion. So I put on like 40 pounds. I was drinking like 2 bottles of wine a day. I was just like literally spiraling during COVID. And then I started the podcast. Then I started to like talk about all of this and talk about my trauma and, how I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, all the things that came up
Yeah.
along with this.
Yeah.
So that's why I talk about it still. Do I love rehashing it? No, it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed that I snapped like that. But I just want people to know, I know in my heart of hearts, I know on my deathbed, I didn't deserve the way I was treated. I will
Right.
tell you that for the rest of my life because it is awful.
Well, and I
It's
do
awful.
think that's part
Yeah.
of why I get really disappointed to hear the public's response
Mm-hmm.
to Ashley. Again, we know nothing about
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, but
Mm-mm.
I do think it's dangerous to have narratives about women, singular
Mm-hmm.
women, right? To isolate one person and to say there must be something really wrong with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Because there actually might be depression, there might be previous trauma, there might be something that is underneath the surface that is going to exacerbate and make a friendship breakup that much worse. And so I think we do have to be really careful, even when someone's in the public eye, about the narrative that we spin on people's experience. Because it can be very dangerous for someone's mental health, literally dangerous.
100%. And like I said, I had already been diagnosed
Right.
with stuff like complex PTSD, like my PTSD from my childhood. So it was like a perfect storm of,
Yes.
I don't know how anybody would have dealt with what I dealt with.
Right.
I just don't. And
Yeah.
for the rest of my life, will be like that. It's still hard. I've said to you in the last podcast, I see one of them. I don't say it to all of them. If they say hi to me, they don't anymore. Thank God. I just ignore them. They ignore me. But there was a point where, I got into it like with a few of them, or I would be like, you're a bitch when I walked by, like not the most mature.
Audibly,
But
or could they hear that? Or
oh
no?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. Because
Okay.
I'm honest.
Yeah.
I held it in for so long because I was like, you made everybody in the community literally, like I was invited to everything. People liked me. People thought it was funny. Not included anymore. Like completely had to start over. Thankfully now I'm like, it's fine. I have friends. I'm okay. I'm doing
Yeah.
better. But I didn't say anything for a long time. And then I got to a point, especially with the one I call the Queen of all Karens.
Right.
And I just was like, I found out that she was doing this to other people too. I'm not the only one that they have done this kind of thing too. So
And
let me
that's how
just
you
tell you
found
that.
me, actually. So you had
Yes,
seen
you're
my
right.
reel about the
Yeah, yeah,
cycle,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
cycle of this in mom groups. And you were like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I think I was in one of those, with
Yes.
the love bombing. It starts off,
Yep.
right? Hot and
Hmm.
heavy. You're bestie,
Hmm.
bestie, bestie. You're doing everything together. Your kids are doing everything. Your family is right.
Hmm.
It's this really intense period. And what's so interesting is a lot of people have been likening it to that same feeling you get when you first go to college. If you go away to college and you meet your friends, it's like this beginning of parenthood almost, right? Like when your kids are maybe out of diapers and like, they're able to sort of socialize a little bit. It's almost that same feeling, that almost like rebirth or that sort of journey into independence. It
Hmm.
feels as intense sometimes as those earlier or late adolescent days. These
Hmm.
like new motherhood formations. It feels
Yeah.
very similar to a lot of women, which makes sense because motherhood is a time of deep, deep personal transformation and growth. And so the people you are meeting earlier on in your motherhood, they feel like a lifeline, just like some of your college friends felt if it was your first time away from home or your first time living independently. It can feel like you're creating your own family in a sense. And so
Yeah.
it can start really hot and heavy, and then it starts to move through this cycle that we see that is very similar, and it's just taken from the narcissistic cycle of what narcissists do in unhealthy relationships. And this is not to say that a mom group is narcissistic, but it is following a similar pattern as narcissistic behaviors. When there's the love bombing, then the devaluation stage, then the exile stage, and then sometimes the Hoover stage, where they do try to reach out and bring you back in, not because they actually want your friendship, but because they want control back and they want information back about your life.
Yeah. And I think that for me, I just closed myself off. Like I had had enough too. So like even if one, I mean, I've never gotten a sorry and I never will because they have their own lie of a narrative that they've spread all over town about me, which is not true. And it took me a really long time for people to go, oh, wait a minute. She's not so bad. She's not this. She's not that. And like I said, I keep it very small on purpose. I don't want to be in a huge group. I'm too old.
Right.
Like, where are we going to go? Like
Yeah. And
Chico's and go on a shopping? That's a joke, but like,
right. And I do see this
I'm
happen
good.
most
Yeah.
frequently with moms who have younger children, not young, but
Yeah.
once you get into like the middle school, teenage years, no one's really getting into groups like this.
No, no, people kind of have their own established groups, like it's not, and and also now something I've learned, which I would love for you to comment on, is the healthy way to separate myself from a relationship because you could find yourself getting in these cycles again, which I have with somebody, and I just went, I'm not going to have a fight. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of separate myself and be friendly, but I'm not going to make plans with that person anymore.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what I've learned from it. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I would say for the majority of women, and I've talked a lot about this the past week, what Ashley did is so great for bringing this topic, highlighting this topic for a large majority of women. But for
Hmm.
most women that are thinking about leaving a mom group that is no longer a good fit for them or where they feel like there's unhealthy behaviors, it is most likely not in their best interest to announce it
Hmm.
and to write some sort of text or email or, blog post, right? So for your average mother woman that is who doesn't have a team of people or PR supporting them, right? It probably will cost more energy than it's worth. Now, that's not always true, but if we could take some of that emotional intensity and turn it towards healing and finding the groups that do value you and where you fit better, that is such
Hmm.
a better use of your energy than using that energy towards explaining to these women who are never going to care. They're
Hmm.
never going to understand your side of the story because they're not willing or wanting to. It's a waste of energy when all is said and done. It's better to put that energy and focus towards yourself and your family and new relationships and just emotionally detach over time, right? You can do your healing. I'm not saying ignore it. You should do your healing. You should do your processing. You should talk to people who who you do trust. You can go to therapy. You can talk to old friends. But to slowly start to emotionally disengage, because it saves so much energy.
It does. It does.
So much energy, because it's almost like it's trying to get water out of an empty well. And there's so much,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
There's so much intensity in the hurt, how you've been hurt. And, you know, and I actually hear this a lot from women who consider themselves to be neurodivergent. They get on the justice train or the
That's me.
Okay.
That's
So-
me. Because I have ADHD and all. So I'm
Sure.
a perfect, and
Yep.
I'm very honest about that. So
Yep.
yeah,
So they
I
get
got
on that.
I got on the justice train.
They get on
Yeah.
that injustice train, and they get hyper focused on it, and they can't get off. But what happens is, again, it's like getting water from an empty well. You're going to show up every day trying to get water, and you're going to exhaust yourself and walk away with an empty bucket, when that time could be better filling that bucket somewhere else. So it's not about letting the group get away with something. It's about choosing the path you want to go down. It's actually about preserving your own capacity. It's not about them. It's about preserving yourself. And that's the mindset shift we have to make when we think about, how do I want to address these toxic groups or leave these toxic groups? It's not about them. The focus has to be about you.
I think that is like the best advice that I think you could give anyone. I'm not kidding either. Because if I could go backwards in time, which I wish I could, if I could go backwards in time, I wish I never would have been in the friend group or met that first mom. But I can't do that. But if I could go backwards in time and deal with this in a totally different way than I did, which was I was on that justice train. I couldn't believe, I'm like, in my head, my ego was so bruised. And I was like, I'm a cool mom. Like, why? Like, no, I didn't say that, but in my head, I'm like, I was one of the moms that everybody thought was funny and wanted to be. So then I started the podcast. Then I started talking about it. Then I wrote a chapter in a book about it. I told everybody. And then to the point where some people would be like, huh, but what did you do? And then I had them like making up lies behind the scenes, you know, or being at parties and being like, oh, and I wasn't even there. And people would be like, oh, so this mom said you were a horrible person, or they were imitating you, or they were doing this. This was like years later, by the way.
Right.
And then I realize now, even though I'm talking about it on this episode and I'm writing a skosh about it in my book because it's part of my story, is stop in your tracks, take a breath, try your best to not tell all of the friends and all of the town, because inevitably my story and my narrative has gotten other people into that same group and they've bonded. Okay. So you can talk about this over the fact, oh, she told me this. And like, still, by the way, like recently, and I'm like, it's fine because this person wasn't even really my real friend, but like, what? Like, it's a bonding thing for people. So can you touch on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, historically speaking, people enjoy bonding over the dislike of one person or one thing, right? It's bonding over dislike. And it is a very fast way to bond. It's bonding over a shared dislike. But it tends to be pretty superficial. Once that goes away, once that bond over the disliked person goes away, what do you have to do next? You have to find something else to dislike or someone else to fill that spot, right? And so it tends to also help perpetuate that cycle of, this is what we do as a group. Some groups play mahjong, some groups play tennis, some groups bond over shared dislike and negative gossip. There's such a thing as positive gossip. So gossip does get a very bad reputation because of how we tend to use it. But there's all different variations of gossip. So gossip helped keep us, as you know, our ancestors alive back when we didn't have channels of communication. So if you were dangerous or someone was stealing all of our grain out of our grain hut or something, it would be important for someone to let me know because it could be protective, right? But now, but when we use gossip just to form the relationships or contain or as like a dopamine hit within a relationship, that's when it becomes unhealthy and it's very superficial. Those
Mhm.
bonds really, think about it, when you no longer have the negative person to talk about, what is there to talk about? When I reflect on some of the group that I was in for a very short time, I can't tell you something we talked about other than other people or
Yeah.
dislike of teachers, or everything was negative. Nothing, or right, everything was about a person. It was never about a thing. It was about either teachers, other moms, dads, husbands. All of the conversation was about people, but in a negative light. When I really step back and think about it, we didn't have shared interest outside of that. And that created very superficial belonging.
Yeah. I think that it's like when you find yourself and again, I talk about like learning so much from it. And what I'm going to teach my daughters, because in the beginning you talked about how this affects your children. My oldest 100% got very, very negatively affected by this. And she's doing great now, but it took some time. She had some issues on like trust and making friends and all the things because, it's a whole thing. But I've learned that I think the way that I went about things, putting myself like, what did I do wrong? Because I think it's important
Oh, it
that
is.
we all hold ourselves accountable in different whatever the scenario is, and that way we teach our kids not to get themselves involved in this kind of stuff. But I teach my girls all the time, be nice. Like you don't have to be best friends with people. You just be nice. And if I find out that you're not nice, we're going to have problems, because I think that's part of what this group did. It was very like, did you hear what so and so, or where are you going on vacation? It was never about what's going on in the world. What do you think about this? Deep stuff,
Right, right. Shared
deep stuff,
interests, real
shared
interests,
interests, real interests.
real
I mean,
values, shared
I have
values.
a
Yeah.
friend now that's become like probably my best friend here, and I live in Manhattan Beach. I talk to her like 30 times a day, but we always talk about real things like how are you feeling with this, or what are you struggling with? And maybe we don't talk 30 times a day. What happened with your husband? Why are you feeling sad?
Right.
Those are the kind of friendships that you need to foster.
Yes.
And I've learned that
Yeah, and I like to,
friendship's a two-way street.
it
Yeah.
is, and I think we can get a lot of information about relationships when we do take a moment and we
Hmm.
pause and we think about how our body reacts and how we feel before and after interactions with certain groups of people, or even one-on-one, right? And I do like to encourage the teens that I work with to think about that. So if there's a group that they're desperate to be a part of, but whenever they're with that group, there's a lot of anticipatory anxiety before they hang out, or they're
Hmm.
drinking more than they normally would, or they're feeling like they're staying out later than they normally would, or they're just altering their personality or their true behaviors to fit into the group. That's one way to think about, what is this? Am I being included because I'm acting a certain way? Or does my nervous system relax when I'm around these people? There's a certain level of relaxation that you can feel in your body when you're with people that are truly non-judgmental of you and are really connecting with you on an emotional level, not for games, not for status, not for performance, but they're connecting with you for you. And your body really can tell the difference.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. I think especially in teen girls. I asked you, I think on the last episode, I always am, I wonder why like this pack mentality. Cause I do live in Los Angeles, but I live in a kind of a small pocket, like beach community
Sure.
and in a smaller private school. So it's like the rumor mill kind of thing. And then it's just, it still follows you. And in my head, I go, oh, I have 2 more years seeing these people. I'm never going to see them again. Or maybe I will, like at the grocery store, but I'm never going to see them again. This isn't going to bother me at all because I still don't like seeing them. I just don't.
Right. Well,
Um,
and
yeah.
I do a lot of family therapy and
Mm,
working with adult children of, childhood trauma or personality disordered parents or emotionally immature parents, alcoholic parents, dysfunctional parents, right? So working with adult children from dysfunctional homes or dysfunctional
mhm.
family systems. And we see the exact same thing, right? So we see that within family systems, someone is the scapegoat. We see groupthink. We see that when people go home for the holidays, right, they might be the most successful, I don't know, businessman that there could be. But when they go home for the holidays, they become the 10-year-old boy that was inattentive and annoyed his sisters. And everyone thinks you know, they treat him as such, right? Because he's
Yeah.
got that narrative attached to him and he's forever going to be seen in that light within that group. And then to some extent, he acts that way. He
Yeah.
regresses to that in which they see him. So it is this awful sort of pattern or cycle that we tend to get ourselves stuck in, where it brings back, we do emotional time travel to the time when we were in that group or seen in that way. And it's very hard for other people to shift how they see us over time, even if there's been enormous growth and change.
Mm. I mean, I love that you said that. Do you think that if somebody goes through this kind of like as an adult friend, like bullying moms kind of thing, I love like the advice that you gave, like, really think about it, how it makes you feel when you get home or before you go hang out with them. I know in my case, I would always feel gross when I came home because I would put my head on my pillow at night and go, oh, I was just talking about people the whole time. I felt I'm like a bad person. I don't like who I am.
Right.
And I love that you brought that up because I think that's a really big piece of it.
So
Is
that
there
comes up,
any,
the ick comes up a lot, right? Where you
yeah,
go home
yeah,
and you're like, ugh, I feel icky
yeah,
about myself, or I feel
yeah,
grossed out about how I behaved. Or you think, oh gosh, I really hope that doesn't get repeated because your conscious is stepping in and you're like, or your consciousness, y- you're wanting to make sure that you actually, because you wouldn't say that to the person's face. So you're like, I really said that because it was performative to fit
hmm,
in with the group or to offer something as part of the dialogue that was shocking or juicy. But really, when you think about it, that's not who you are. Or you might find yourself overthinking things you shared that were too vulnerable that you're then afraid they're going to share with someone else, right? So that's the sort of, you're nervous to leave the table because you'll be spoken about the minute you get up, right? That's the, uh-oh, did I share too much? Are they going to take that information and how is that going to be used? So you sort of feel gross about yourself that you maybe said something you wouldn't have normally said, or some people overshare because they're feeling so anxious that
hmm,
they just sort of become unfiltered as a part of an anxiety response. Um, or you might worry that you weren't fun enough or cool enough, right? There's just so much overthinking when you're trying to fit into a group. And we expect this in high school. We expect this in middle school when you're forming how you are going to relate in group dynamics outside of your family. But by adulthood, we have a pretty clear definition of how we interact in group dynamics and who we are as individuals. So if you're having that response that feels similar to when you were in high school, that should be a warning sign for you to move a little slowly towards that group. That doesn't mean you can't be in the group. It doesn't mean you can't have one foot in, one foot out, because that is the community within your neighborhood, or you have to participate to some degree because your kid is on the sports team and those are the sports parents. As parents, we don't always have the option to say, I'm not going to be involved when it's something your kid is involved in and you have to see these
hmm,
people. But I would say take note of that and proceed with caution.
yeah. I think that the ick factor is so, it's so true. It's like dating,
It is.
I mean, you're like when you're dating a guy or whoever you're dating, you kind of go, huh, that's a little bit of a red flag. And what I've learned from this situation is my picker is so careful now. I mean, that's
Right.
one good thing. Like
Right.
out of all, I mean, you learn in life, we learn out of every experience. I wouldn't really want anybody to go through what I went through,
Right.
except for maybe them. I'm going to
Right.
be honest.
Right.
Um,
Well, you were really
but
hurt, right?
yeah,
The hurt.
yeah,
And what
yeah.
happens, I know you had mentioned, you've had other traumatic experiences in your life. You've had
Mhm.
losses. You've lost relationships through other life events. The factor that's different here is with those other losses, there was no shame component. It was pain, but there wasn't shame, right? It's the
Yeah,
shame that is in this event. It's shame that usually is the driving force of the most or the deepest wounds that people can experience. It's shame that makes people make decisions to unalive themselves, right? It's shame.
yeah.
Shame is one of the most dangerous emotions that we can feel as humans. It's not sadness, it's shame.
Yeah, and I think like looking back on it too, and all the things that we've talked about, um, I think for listeners out there, if you do find yourself in these situations, like we talked about, just pull, like you don't like you. There's ways you can't get out of it if you're on a sports team. All the things you talked about, but you can. Like in my situation, I could have. And I kept getting all of these flags like thrown at me, almost signs. I believe they were signs from my best friend who passed, being like, get out, run,
Right.
run, get away, don't be around these people. But I didn't listen. And so it's kind of like listen to your gut. We all have female intuition. I did not listen. I had so many chances and I kept going back, like, thinking in my head, I don't want to not be included in this dumb party. I don't want to. And now I'm like, I would rather be sitting in my house and with my children watching a movie or
Sure.
talking to my husband or all the things than being having a standing Thursday night dinner where you talk about a bunch of people with a bunch of women, you
What do you,
know?
yeah, what do you, I'm just curious. I know you're supposed to ask the questions, but
No, go for it.
okay, what do you think? Because it is different from most women, but there's usually a thread of similarity. What do you think made you keep going back? Why do you think you kept going back?
I think I kept going back because I just didn't want to be not included.
What
And
what would it
like
mean if you
meaning
weren't included?
I think it was just validation. Like inside I'm not like I think I've grown a lot, but I was like this insecure girl.
Yeah.
Going back to college, I always had like groups. I was always like in the popular group. It was so important to me that I wasn't always nice and I did mean things and I could be a bitch too. I mean, because that comes from the bullying that I went through as a little kid,
Right.
where I knew what it felt like from fourth to sixth to kind of be teased because I was like a little chubby and going through an awkward phase. And then I grew and everyone liked me and the boys started liking me. So I was obsessed with being a part of something because I
Okay.
felt almost protected.
Yep.
And I was
It's
always like that until I kind of like broke free, not by choice. Like this had to happen to get me to break free.
right.
And I can tell you, listeners, if you're listening, yeah, I talked about in the beginning, it still sucks. Like I still have to see these people. I don't like them. They're not happy. Many of them have been ditched by the group. And then I'm hearing stories of them doing mean things to other people. That's fine. That's their journey. My journey is how am I going to heal from this? And how am I going to be able to move on and not have to wait another 2 years because I have to keep seeing them, that I get triggered all the time when I still see them. So that's something I'm actively working on. I'm also actively working on not calling the Queen of Karens a bitch when I walk by her or saying she's a horrible person.
Uh-huh.
That's growth,
That is
right?
growth. We talked about last time the
Last time you
the
gave me
the
advice, but I
the
didn't
the
listen.
DBT skill of opposite action for anger. I think it was about
Yeah.
not flipping the bird past the house, or maybe you
I
should
don't,
do
I
that. instead of
don't do that anymore because she
good.
moved and
Oh,
she
okay.
moved and I moved.
Dang it. Thought you were going to
I
say you
know.
tried opposite action. But
I know, but again, we're human beings.
exactly.
Like I'm like holding my hot mess self together by the best I can, but that doesn't mean I can't work on myself
Sure,
and stop
absolutely. And
my
it doesn't mean you
behavior.
can't have feelings, right? We
Yeah,
would
yeah,
hope that however you're going to act on your feelings um is something that you would look back on in a wise-minded state and say, I approve of that.
yeah.
And if not, we just hope it doesn't create any long-term consequences, which it doesn't sound like anything you're doing would create long-term
No, I mean
consequences.
nothing that like give me a break. I mean it's like in passing
Exactly.
and the person has done so many horrible things to numerous people that I'm a saint compared to her, and we all know I am no saint.
But that's like
But
what I tell the women when they
yeah,
do have the urge to say, I'm going to write, not, I've never had someone say I want to write a blog post, but I'm going to
mhm,
text the whole group, or I'm going to write an email to the class mom saying how, or, where they want to come out and sort of share their story or explain why they're leaving or explain the hurt that's been done. I always encourage them to look at their own capacity and
mhm.
see, are they in? Because I think until you do it, you may not realize the emotional depth of what it is to carry that. When you do have a number of women saying, "Yeah, I'm not sorry," or "I don't see what the problem is," or "You're wrong. It didn't happen that way." It takes a lot of emotional bandwidth to carry that weight when you're also trying to carry the weight of being a mother. Um,
Yeah.
right? It's a lot to carry. So I do like
And
women.
you're not going to get the just for your people that follow you or people that follow me. I will tell you, you are not with the blog post or in my case, a podcast or a chapter in a book. You are never going to get the response that you want. And I cannot repeat that enough. You are never going to get the response that you want, which initially was probably in my case, Meghan, I'm so sorry. I don't we know we were mean. We know you were our friend. I am never, ever, ever, ever getting that.
Right. Or
And
you were
that's
good
fine.
enough, or you are good
Or you were
enough.
good enough, or you are good enough, because that's on them.
Right.
Like, so for people that are following you or your patients, or in my case, my listeners, like, use me as an example of what not to do. I'm being
I love that.
100% serious. 100% serious.
Sure.
Part of why I share the story is because I've already shared it.
Mhm.
It's already out there.
Right.
What else can they do? There's
Right.
pretty much nothing else. So, like, use me as an example of what not to do, honestly.
Right. And if you do feel like there's one person in the group who you were particularly close with, or you feel like for your own personal healing, not to get approval from them, not to hear I'm sorry, not to have someone say, you know what, come back into the group. If you really want to connect with one of those people or some of those people and explain how you feel you were harmed or hurt, that's your choice.
Hmm.
But I always encourage people to do it for the right reason. And the right reason from my perspective or a psychological perspective is for your own growth, not to teach them a lesson or to show them the error of their ways. But if you're going to feel like, okay, I developed my self-worth, or I feel like I increased my self-respect, or I feel like this was a really powerful inner moment for me to share how I was hurt, regardless of how they respond or regardless of what their sort of response is to you or their narrative, that's a different story. But if you're approaching, you have to be ready to handle or have the capacity to handle the backlash.
Hmm.
And you have to recognize what you can and can't get from them. Right?
And can I just piggyback on that?
Yeah,
Because I
please.
love that. Find new friends.
Oh, yeah.
Get out there. There's other people. If you would have told me in 2019, 2020, when I was like gained all that weight, like was like drooling in a corner, drinking, like so depressed, all I was wearing was like Natalie Martin caftans because I had gained so much weight. If you would have told me, and again, like nothing's perfect, life's hard right now for everyone. But if you would have told me, oh my God, this person and this person are going to come into your life and you're going to have like these friends and this is going to happen to you. I would have left before that.
Right.
I just didn't, I couldn't do it until it kind of had to do it for me almost.
Yep.
Right? Does
Yep.
that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. Yep. And you've lived and you've learned and you're passing this knowledge on to other women that might be where you were 6 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. In closing, okay, because I love you. I love please tell everyone where they can follow you because I follow you on Instagram and I love your reels. Some of them are really funny. Some of them just really, in fact, what's funny is I had a friend, the friend that I'm talking about that I'm so close to that I talk to like 8 times a day. Shout out Yvette. I'm going to say her name. She sent me a reel that you posted. And I was like, oh my God,
That's
I know her. Like she's
hilarious.
been on the podcast before. So you really do have this great following and you
Thank
give
you.
such good advice for women and people. So
Thank
tell
you.
people where they can find you.
So I am on Instagram at Dr. Noelle Santorelli, Noelle Santorelli, Dr. Noelle Santorelli, and that's my handle for Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. So you can find me on your preferred social media platform. I have a website, same name as well.
Okay. And if you are you taking new patients if you happen to be listening in the Atlanta area? I was going to ask you that.
I am not currently, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look at you. Too busy. You're booked and busy.
Yeah. You know, I have been in private practice since, well, almost 15 years now. So once you're in practice for that long, it's you know, you get full pretty quickly. Or you stay full. You stay full. It took a while to get here, but once you're full, you're full because you have so many connections within the community. They know your work, and so you kind of have a constant pipeline.
And also you just give such good advice. So no wonder you're well in demand and deservedly so.
Thank
you so much for coming on.
I have my guide, my e-guide. That is one thing I made so that people who can't see me, so it's like a 70+ page PDF, instant download. It's called the Mean Girl Mom Survival Guide, and it's got scripts. It's got education about like what is relational aggression, why does it show up, what is it not, like how to differentiate between social anxiety, rejection sensitivity with ADHD, versus like, okay, I am in a group where there's some relational aggression. It's got how to talk to your kids about it if you need to leave a group. And it's divided by like the different age groups of whatever your kids might be, how to explain to them why you're not hanging out with these people anymore. It's got some reflection questions similar to what we've been talking about, could have been helpful. And it has some affirmations for supporting yourself through going in the toxic mom groups.
Well, I love that. And I'm just so grateful that what you're putting out into the universe because there's women like us that have gone through this everywhere.
Yeah.
And when I did our first episode together, or I do talk about this, which I really do not want to, but I hope I'm helping one of you out there with my story. There's so many people that reach out and go, oh my God, I went through that too.
Yep.
Or similar things.
Yeah. It's
so
wild.
It's important. It is wild.
Wild when you start talking about it. How many people, I don't talk to one person that doesn't say, I've got a story for you.
That's crazy.
Right? But yet we don't really talk about it until you open the door for the conversation to be had. So hopefully we are opening the doors for women to feel comfortable sharing this and not living with the shame of what's wrong with me because I didn't fit in this.
Yeah, it's so important. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Everyone, you matter. Your story matters. Keep going.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.